Okay. I think I'm in here, right? I think I'm in here, right? Okay. Can anybody see me? Okay, I'm in here. So I'm gonna start and hopefully people can catch up. I am author D.L. White. Um, I am an Atlanta based author of romance and women's fiction, romantic fiction, heavy on the romance, a lot of women's fiction. Am I live now? Saw something pop up. I don't know if I'm live. So, okay, there you are. I'm doing this from my laptop, so I, for some reason, can only see myself. I don't know. I guess I'll try to keep up with the comments over there on the other computer. But I am D.L. White. I am an Atlanta-based author of women's fiction and romance featuring Black men and women. I have been writing for a long time, most of my life. Um, Let me move this here so I can see your comments. I started writing. I started writing for publication in 2011. But before that, I was writing a lot of fan fiction. People that have known me for a long time know that, hey, everybody, hi, how are you? Welcome. A lot of people that have been following me for a long time know that I'm a fan of NSYNC, which is a boy band from the 90s and early 2000s. And I was looking for a way to kind of connect with fans and started reading fan fiction. And I started writing fan fiction around 2008 or so. And um, in I still do write some fan fiction. So in 2016, I wrote a story for one of our challenges, and I just felt like writing something else. And so a story that had been niggling at me for a while popped up in my head. And I wrote Beach Thing in about 8 hours. Not 8 hours, oh my God, 8 weeks. I've never written a book in 8 hours. So um, this book is kind of an ode to things that I really love, like the beach, like frozen fruity drink, And what I think most people don't know is this book is inspired by Eminem, which is really weird. He's nowhere in this book. It is not about him, but he has a longtime producer that he's been friends with since they were kids named Denon. And I started following Denon a while back and just was inspired by their friendship. When he first came out on the scene, he got his first beats from Denon, and they just have been friends, for so long. So I kind of had this idea to write a story about two men that had been friends for a long time, and they both sort of made it together. Wade is a hip hop producer, and the artist that he produces for is named Gage Coleman, who, in my mind, in the book, he's a lot like Common. Eminem, yes, the rapper Eminem. He's not in this book, just kind of inspired by the story of him and his friend. Common in Barbershop 3 is kind of my idea of what Gage is like. Real laid back dude, super talented, but it didn't go to his head. Wade and Gage are like your average well-to-do guys from New York. And so the deal that Eminem had with his crew, which was D12, which was the rap group that he also fronted, was the first person to make it brought everybody else with them. So that's why when he was signed, he formed record label Shady Records under Aftermath, and then he signed his group D12 to Shady Records. And so once he was on, he brought everybody else with them. And I brought that rule on to Beach Thing because when Gage made it, he brought Wade with him. And now they're both kind of big deals. But Wade is distracted. He's got some distractions and he can't work. And so he decides to spend the summer on this island called Black Diamond, where he meets Amina. And Amina is the daughter of owners of a restaurant group. And one of them is a big steakhouse like, think of like a Ruth's Chris, or if you've been to Atlanta, Bones. Like a $68 steak is, I don't know, it's nothing. It's a normal thing. So Porter Restaurants owns like 5 locations, and the idea was for Amina to take over the restaurant group with her brother. But about 5 years in the past, she decided she didn't want to do that. Her grandmother left her her beach house, and Amina decides that she's going to quit her job with Porter Restaurants and move to Black Diamond and open up her smoothie shop. It's what she's always wanted to do. So she decides to follow her dreams. Her parents think she's nuts. So Beach Thing is just these two people meeting. It's sort of, I call it a beachy black romance. It's very much a vacation ship, but the closer that they get, the more they realize that they really care for each other, and they have to make a decision. Does the beach thing end when the vacation ends, or can they keep this thing going? So that's kind of the introduction to Beach Thing. Any questions so far? I don't know where I heard the name Amina, but I just really liked it. I think Wade is named after someone that I used to know. I hear names that I like and I write them down. So I used to have a file full of names that I really like because I don't want a name that's hard to pronounce, but I definitely want it to be unique, but easy to remember when you read it back in your head. Sometimes when I read names, there's too many syllables, or that doesn't make sense. It doesn't go with their last name. So naming is hard. So I'm going to start at the beginning because I think their intro stories are really cute and their meet cute is super cute. So I am going to begin. Any questions before I start? Thank you. I designed this cover myself. Lisa said she loves the colorful cover. I designed it myself, and my friend Diane Frost, who's an author, just took the file and brightened it up a little bit and gave me this really fun font. Yeah, the audiobook is fun. Summer said she just started listening to it today. This book is 1.99 in Kindle on Amazon, and I think the paperback is like $8. It's also on audio at Audible, and it's also part of Audible Escape if you have a subscription to that. So it's exclusive to Audible, so you won't hear it anybody else until, I don't know, 7 years from now. So let's begin. It is Beach Thing by D.L. White, Chapter 1, Amina. A little more. More. Higher, Andrew. Amina. Andrew grumbled, but lifted the sign higher. Perched on the top rung of the ladder, he held the long wooden board in place while my cousin secured it so that it hung over the front entrance. Hey, JL. My voice is not going to be nearly as soothing as yours. Once he had finished, we all stepped back to take in the view of the wooden building with the fresh coat of white paint and the tikis and cream sign finally hung. Satisfied, I smiled and let out a long sigh. It had been a long journey to here. In the last 6 months, I had upended my entire life to move to Black Diamond Isles, a cluster of man-made islands off the coast of Black Diamond Bay. I had found the perfect location for my coffee slash smoothie slash juice bar and renovated the space, doing a lot of the work myself to save money. And now I was finally open. The pièce de résistance was a custom-designed sign for the shop. My cousin, Liam, had shipped it from New York, and he and my brother flew down to the island for a long weekend to hang it for me. Looks good, right? Liam slung an arm over my shoulder, beaming with pride. I stood in the middle of the sidewalk, just staring. I couldn't take my eyes off the vibrant, beachy colors and the crisp lettering. My heartbeat sped up a little as I realized how it stood out amongst all the other shops on the boardwalk. I almost let a tear build up, but blinked it away. The long days and longer nights ahead would take care of that wistful feeling. It's beautiful, I told him. I really do love it. Now I'm official. You were always official, Lena. Thanks, Liam. I mean it. For the sign, for coming down and helping me get things squared away, for everything. I hugged him, then stepped back to find my brother smirking, leaning his bulky frame against the counter. You too, you big jealous fool. I gave Andrew a good heavy thump on the back, which he seemed to appreciate. Even though all you did was hold the sign while Liam nailed it in and stand around while he took care of my honey-do list. I paid for the tickets, quipped Andrew, and I carried a couple of things from the house. He's a hard worker, said Liam, packing the last of the tools into a toolbox. We better hit the road, though. There's an hour drive to the airport, and if I miss my flight, the words Denise will use to describe me will peel the paint back off your walls. I nodded, trying not to tear up again. This would be the last time I'd see them for a while. I know she misses you and your help with the twins. Thank her for me, for letting you come. What about Kath? Should I thank her for you, too? I rolled my eyes, raising my arms to slide them around Andrew's shoulders. I squeezed him extra hard, our signature hug. Catherine has probably been able to get so much done around the house without you. I love how you love me, Mina. The jokey tone left his voice, and his face took on a serious pallor. You take care of yourself, all right? Don't hesitate to call, day or night. Well, not night, 'cause a man be working hard, to be tired and everything. I giggled, appreciating the lightening of the mood before things got too heavy. Thank you for everything you've done to support me. I know Mom and Dad think I'm crazy, but I glanced back at the building, then up to my new sign, which marked the opening of my business. This is my dream. Now go. As much as we joke, Kath will probably be happy to see you. Damn right, bellowed Andrew, picking up the backpack he toted to the shop earlier. Man of the house, coming home. He's all extra loud right now because Kath would tell him to shut his big head up. Liam chuckled and lifted his hand in a wave. Ditto on what he said, though. Need us? Call us. We'll be here. I watched them loaf down the sidewalk toward the main drag where they would catch a cab to the small airstrip and head back to New York, leaving me here in Black Diamond by myself. A cold fear slithered down my spine. I shivered, trying to chase it away. Excuse me. I turned to find a middle-aged woman standing in the front of my shop, holding a laminated half sheet of paper, the tikis and cream menu. Her toasted cinnamon complexion bore a light sheen of sweat. Are you open? I want one of these juice drinks. I brightened. propping the door open. I flipped the closed sign to open, then stepped inside and behind the counter. Yes, ma'am, I am open. What can I get for you? Phew. Chapter 2. Wade. Gage grunted while lifting the case from the back of the moving van. I mean, you didn't have to bring the whole studio. I didn't. I took the case from him, then shook my head. It wasn't even heavy. You need to hit the gym. I do hit the gym. I wasn't expecting a workout today. Is this the last of the stuff? Gage peered around the open rear door, inspecting the now empty interior of the van. That's it. Everything's out of my car. Let's get this in the house then. I'll show you where you can set up. Gage grabbed a few items and trotted from the circular driveway into the house. I was a few paces behind, trying to get used to the fact that I would be living in this house, if you want to call it that, all summer, with 6 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, a heated pool and jacuzzi, 3 fireplaces, a fire pit, and just over the cliff, the white sands and blue waters of Black Diamond Bay. It felt more like a mansion, but Gage shrugged it off. Just a house, man, he'd said when he told me about his place on an island a few weeks ago. We'd been in the studio all day, and it had been a rough time of it. Gage thought I needed a break and offered his beach place up for the summer. We bought it as a tax break. I thought we'd be down there all the time, but according to my wife, it's not better than her parents' place, so... He trailed off with a shrug, miscellaneously punching buttons on the console. You're welcome to it. Cherie and the girls will still be in Jamaica. It took me a few days before I felt comfortable accepting his offer, only relenting after he said he planned on driving down with me. May as well get some use out of the place. I stepped into the house, still feeling a little weird about the grandiose foyer and the expensive tile floors, the spacious rooms, and the air of wealth that surrounded everything from the knickknacks to the fixtures. The fireplaces had gold-plated pokers. I lived a simpler existence, so the excess tripped me out, but I was grateful to have a nice place to spend the summer. I could use the time and space away from the city, away from the studio, away from my father, a man I never knew, had rarely seen except through a pane of glass and a telephone handset, a man who, a few weeks ago, popped up straight out of nowhere asking to be known. I definitely could use some time away from him. So I put everything in this room back here, Gage was saying as he rounded a corner. I had extra power runs put in because that's where I was going to put my studio. There's a nice workspace near the windows so you get a view while you're working. Half listening, I followed Gage to the back of the house. It was a nice area, more like an extended sunroom with a long span of windows along one wall. Beyond the pool and the extra acreage that surrounded the house, the bay shimmered, washing up onto the sand. I kind of couldn't wait to sit up on the beach in a chair with an ice-cold beer, my iPod, and some earbuds. I exhaled, feeling the weight of the world lift a little. You all right, man? I turned to find Gage studying me while flipping open the black cases that held the equipment he had driven down in the van. I mean, this place is cool, right? You gonna be okay out here by yourself? Oh, yeah, it's cool. It'll be a good summer. I set down the cases and bags I was holding and joined Gage in getting the room set up. He'd be leaving the next day, so I wanted to take advantage of having 2 sets of hands. Hours later, the room was starting to resemble Tunage, my Brooklyn studio. I'd opened it after Gage's first release, produced by yours truly, jumped from the mid-20s to the top 10 on the Billboard hip-hop charts. We were a team, always had been since back in the day. Throughout junior high and high school, Gage wrote and rapped, sang a little too. I was the beat factory and had a lot going on in my own right. The deal was that whoever hit it big first brought the other one along. A little note here that's how Eminem got signed. He had went to LA for the Rap Olympics and lost, and the next morning a DJ was doing like a, I don't know, freestyle rap over the air kind of thing. Somebody heard it, recorded, sent it to Jimmy Iovine. Jimmy Iovine was like, I don't know, this kid sounds cool, and sent it to Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre was like, yeah, he sounds cool, let's bring him in, and had no idea that Eminem was a white boy. So this blonde-haired, blue-eyed rapper walks in and rocks his world, and the rest is history. So that's the part that I took from their past friendship because I liked it. Gage was discovered on the radio, some New York morning show where wannabe rappers would call in and freestyle over a beat. He blew everyone away, and if that wasn't amazing enough, he got a phone call later that day that a major producer wanted to talk to him. Gage turned him down. Already got Wade on the beats. He's the only one I work with. After orchestrating a deal that included me, he went on to release 3 chart-topping records. His star was bright, and while it should have gone to his head, it didn't. He was the same old Gage I always knew. Married his high school sweetheart, bought a nice spot, put his kids in Catholic private school. Gage Coleman lived a real good life. I, on the other hand, I'm not saying my life was shitty, but I'd spent a lot of time at the Colemans because I didn't have much of anyone else. My mother had worked long hours at a nursing home. My dad had been away since I was young. We had no real family to speak of since my mother and her family were estranged after she got with my dad against their wishes. Gage's family became my family, and it's always been that way. When he heard about my dad getting sprung and wanting to come around, Gage understood my freakout. But since his success hinged on me doing what I do, he wanted me to get it together, and quickly. I wiped a few beads of sweat from my hairline and stood from a crouching position where I'd been running some cords under a table. I took a glance around the room to see what else needed to be unpacked and plugged in, but things were looking nice. I still had to connect my speakers, run a few auxiliary cords, and take care of some minor things, but I figured that by the following night, music would be booming from this room. I smiled at the prospect. You want to grab some beers, some wings or something? The main drag's a few blocks away. We can walk. I checked my watch. A feeling of emptiness in the pit of my stomach reminded me that I hadn't eaten in a while. Sounds good. I want to change my shirt. I'm covered in dust. You think you're going to meet someone that cares about your dirty shirt? I laughed, heading to the bedroom I'd claimed for the summer. You know your mama taught us to not look like just anything in public. I guess you're right. I'll change too. You can't be looking better than me. Yeah, I'm kind of obsessed with Eminem, so Chapter 3, Amina. This is the meet cute, which I really enjoyed writing. I pulled down the metal shade to obscure the open counter, flipped the open sign to closed on the front of the shop, and stepped outside, pulling the door shut behind me. My first full day as owner and proprietor of Tiki's and Cream was a success. I had a steady stream of customers, hot and sweaty from being on the beach and ready for a cool, refreshing drink. I keyed both locks and checked the door, then weaved into the stream of foot traffic along the sidewalk. I was going to have to hire some help, sooner rather than later. If every day was like today... A bump from behind me interrupted my train of thought. I turned to mutter an apology, but the words stuck in my throat. 2 broad-shouldered men were so close I caught a whiff of spicy cologne. I saw wide smiles on handsome, smooth, milk chocolate faces bearing perfectly trimmed goatees. One had gorgeous amber-colored eyes. The others were a deep, dark espresso, and he seemed really familiar. Both stepped aside as they passed me, nodding in my direction as they continued their conversation. "Excuse you," I called out to muscle-bound backs. They turned to face me, genuine surprise in both sets of eyes. "Excuse us," said the shorter one. "You came out of nowhere and didn't even look to see where you were going. I almost tripped over you, so excuse you, miss." "You could have said something. You bumped into me, almost knocked me over." "Miss," said the taller one, lifting a hand, I guess to quiet me. "We didn't see that you were coming out of the shop. Excuse us. We cool?" I huffed, folding my arms across my chest. "Fine. We cool, or whatever." He smiled and pointed 2 fingers at me. Then I recognized him. I was letting my smart mouth run all over Billboard's #1 hip-hop artist, Gage Coleman. I had his latest release on heavy rotation on iTunes, and my best friend Paige was madly in love with him. My eyes grew wide, and I sucked in a loud breath. He placed a finger over his lips and winked, then stuck out his hand. "Gage, this is Wade." "I'm so rude." "Don't mind me. Amina, nice to meet you." Gage's grip was strong, his hand soft as I shook it. Wade reluctantly offered his, and I shook it too. Now that I looked at him, instead of glaring at him, I recognized him as Gage's longtime producer. "We're looking for beer and good wings. Does that exist out here?" "A couple of places, yeah, but if you're looking for something close." I pointed toward the worn-out shack at the end of the block with the line out the front door. "Sparky's down there has really good wings, lots of flavors. Get extra napkins, though. They're really messy. Gage nodded, rubbing his palms together. Good looking out. He eyed the shop behind me, then glanced at Wade, who rolled his eyes. Looks like you're closed up for the day. Do you want to join us? I did want to join them, actually. I really, really wanted to hang out with famous, handsome men that had just happened to bump into me, but it had been a long day. I still had things to do before I could go to bed. I was tired as hell, and my new job had disgraceful hours. Thanks. But I better be heading home. Maybe next time. I walked around them, making myself leave before I did or did something stupid. Again. Enjoy your wings. Meet cute. I so rarely get to write a meet cute because I don't often write strangers that happen to meet. I write a lot of enemies to lovers and friends to lovers, like people that have known each other forever. So a really good, effective meet cute is a lot of pressure. So I was very happy with this one. Gage Coleman in the flesh. And I recognize his producer too, Wade something. Wade Marshall? Paige's voice rose to an octave I didn't think she was capable of reaching. Are they as fine in real life as they are in this spread for Maximum? Talking about hip-hop's dream team. Gage is everything I want on my team. I laughed, dropping into one end of the couch with a bowl of ice cream. I hope a bullet in your ass is something you want too. Cherie Coleman don't play about her man. She will cut a bitch. Don't I know it? I heard about one girl in a club getting too close, kept hugging him, hanging on him, grinning all in his face and wouldn't step back. Cherie took right care of that mess. I heard her tongue clicking and pages turning. Anyway, how long do you think they're in town? I don't know. I haven't seen them before and I've been here a while. I'm guessing they just got here. And from the looks of the lights going on and off at the house on the corner, that's where they're staying. You mean that big house with the circular driveway and the pool and the everything? I hummed, licking the ice cream off my spoon. I loved ice cream. It was my nightly treat. Just a small bowl to start with. How's everything going? You ready for me to come down there yet? Actually, I said, almost choking on a too big bite of chocolate chunk. I'm going to need some help sooner than I thought. Not saying I can afford for you to quit your job at that fancy law firm and come down here. They won't miss me. Right. Does anyone else do any work? I'm pretty sure you do everything over there. You're right. I am dope, and they'd be lost without me. I rolled my eyes, even though she was basically agreeing with me. So what are you going to do about getting some help? See how long I can go before I fall over from exhaustion? Then probably place an ad in the Bullhorn. Black Diamond had its own newspaper for residents. If you needed to buy something, wanted to sell something, needed to announce something, it went into the Bullhorn. Please don't work yourself to the bone, at least not before I build up some vacation and before I can build up some vacation time and can come down there. We chatted for a few minutes more while I scraped the bowl with my spoon, my signal that it was time to brush my teeth and crawl into bed. My alarm was set for 5:30 and I wasn't even sure that would be early enough. I'm turning into a pumpkin. Kiss everybody for me. Talk to you soon. I signed off with Paige, dropped my bowl into the dishwasher, and turned it on so that it could work while I slept. A glint of light caught my eye as I passed the kitchen window overlooking the beach. I reached over to the wall and snapped off the overhead light, then waited for my eyes to adjust to the darkness. I watched a figure trudge through the sand just along the edge of the water, a mobile phone lighting up the night. Since he was walking from the direction of the house on the corner, I guessed that it was Wade. Before I could stop myself, I opened the kitchen door and stepped out onto the deck, flipping on the porch light and walking to the edge. I leaned against the railing and waited for him to slip his phone into his pocket and make his way over. "It's you," he said, when he got close enough for me to hear him. "It's me, that loudmouth girl from earlier." He chuckled. "I'm not saying all that. I was checking out the beach. I'm a city guy, so I don't get to see this often. This beach is great. I love the breeze off the bay at night." As if on cue, we both took a glance at the rolling waves lit by the moon sitting high above. "So I guess we're neighbors." He nodded, glancing in the direction of the large house lit up like Christmas, then back to me. "It's Gage's place, but he's lending it out for the summer." He paused, then the rest of the sentence rushed out of his mouth like he was trying to beat me to some kind of finish line. "So listen, I'm sorry about earlier. I was tired and hungry." I shrugged. I was preoccupied. Should have watched where I was going. "Well, anyway, my mama raised me a gentleman. My apologies." He paused for a beat, then asked, Run that little smoothie shop there? I do, I nodded. Just opened officially today. Yeah? I heard the smile in his deep tenor. No wonder you were preoccupied. That's good. I like to see people doing for themselves. Congrats. Thanks. You should stop by the shop tomorrow. I'll make you something on the house if you want. You can't make money giving drinks away. I'll happily pay for something. I laughed, stepping back from the railing surrounding the wood deck. And I'll happily take your money. See you tomorrow. Woohoo! Okay. I was going to read chapter 4, and then I don't know how much farther. Maybe chapter 5, because it's cute as well. This whole book is like saccharine sweet, so it was a lot of fun to write. But in chapter 4, you get to meet Wade's mom, and he is all about his mother. Ruth Marshall is everything to him, so I really like his mom, so I want y'all to meet Ruth. Chapter 4, Wade. Say hey to the wife and girls for me. I called to Gage's retreating back as he climbed the steps to board the aircraft. He lifted a hand to acknowledge me, and then he was gone, swallowed up into the cavernous belly of the plane. Once the stairwell started to slowly pull up, I put the car in drive and pulled out of the private airstrip onto the main road. Before long, I was crossing the bridge back into Black Diamond Isles. I was anxious to park the car and then go find that little Shake Shack again and see Amina again. We'd gotten off on the wrong foot a little. I felt like I fixed it last night, but patronizing her business would be a good move. Not that I really needed to be looking up women on the island already, or at all. I had enough issues to deal with, enough things going on in my life that losing focus on a woman was just adding fuel to the fire. She was pretty, though. Wild, deep brown curls that framed her face were just barely contained in a clip. Her skin was golden, probably from working on the shop, or maybe hanging out on her back deck. I noticed her thick lips when they were pursed and scowling in my direction. And I noticed those thick hips when she settled her hands on them in obvious displeasure. I strolled the main drag between the beach and the beachside businesses. No vehicles were allowed on the street, only service carts, bicycles, and foot traffic. I took my time, swinging my head from side to side, taking note of everything that was offered. T-shirts, beach swag, places to rent kayaks, canoes, and stand-up paddles, places to buy life jackets, water wings, and snorkel gear. Then there were the restaurants, hot dogs, hamburgers, sausages, fries, wings, Italian ice, snow cones. In the background, the bay provided a regular, rhythmic soundtrack of waves rolling up onto the shore, then pulling back. I slept with my windows open last night just to hear the sound. That is my favorite sound. If I go to the beach, I always try to have a window open or the sliding glass door open just so I can hear the ocean all night, or like first thing in the morning I get up before the sunrise and sit out on the patio and listen to the waves and watch the sun come up. I really miss the beach, and I do not know when I'll be able to go to the beach again. All right. I turned into the open door at Tiki's and Cream, slipping off my shades and hooking them onto the collar of my shirt. The line was 3 people deep, so I stood to the side and occupied a high bar stool along the wall. Amina was pleasant and peppy, not showing a hint that she'd been up too late investigating a creeper on the beach the night before. Once her waiting customers had been served, she stepped around the counter, a wide smile beaming in my direction. You made it! I had to make an airport run, see Gage off to join his family on vacation. I was checking out your menu. You think I could get one of these frozen sunshines you have listed here? I pointed to an item on the menu, but of course she didn't need to look at it to know what it was. Coming right up. You want whipped cream on it? I shrugged. Why not? I've already had wings and beer. My abs are going to be gone by the time I leave this place. She laughed, moving behind the counter and deftly performing the task to make my drink. She had practiced a lot, it seemed. She knew where everything was without having to look for it, and everything she needed was in arm's reach. Whoever had designed her workspace knew what they were doing. I had the same philosophy about the studio. No need for a huge space when I'm going to use the same 10 things over and over. May as well keep them near me. It's tempting to try everything when you're new to the island. Give yourself a week to explore. There are really some neat places here. And if you want, I can show you some of the healthier options, There's so much more to this place than the strip along the beach. Yeah, that'd be nice. There's a weight room in the house, but I'd like to get out every once in a while. Is there a gym nearby? She gestured for me to wait a moment since the mixer was too loud to talk over. When she'd finished blending, she said, "There are two, actually. One really small gym and one big gym, like gold." Sounds great. And like the grocery store and a bank, which I'm sure I can find on my own, but if you're offering to be my tour guide. I paused to take in the view of a bright orange, frothy concoction topped with a mound of whipped cream. Damn! I might need to join that gym real soon if I'm going to be drinking these all summer. Now, this is made with fruit, ice cream, and juice that have no sugar added, so I'm not giving you any unnecessary calories, except for the whipped cream, but that's essential to finish it off. She waited while I sucked some through the straw, then grinned at how fast my eyebrows lifted. Yes? So much yes, I swooned, sucking down more of the ice-cold orange mix. Very much yes. This is good. Thanks. I created it myself. Oh yeah? Well, you outdid yourself with this one. She whipped a white towel from where it had been tucked into the back pocket of her khaki shorts, grabbed a bottle with a spray nozzle from behind the counter, and began wiping down surfaces. My family owns a restaurant group back in New York. One of the spots we own is a storefront near Long Beach. I worked a lot of summers there, and in the downtime, I would experiment with different combinations. I'm always trying something new with ice cream and fruit and juice. It's pretty interesting. She'd been talking and wiping, making her way across the room. I'd been sipping and listening, watching her. Finding herself at the table next to mine, she set the spray bottle down. She set the spray bottle and the towel down and climbed up onto a stool. At least, I think it's pretty interesting. No, it is, it is. I mean, it's recipes, right? A little of this, a little of that. Something to hold it together. I can relate. Yeah, a lot like that. A small group piled into the shop, laughing and talking loudly, toting beach bags and towels. That's my sign to get back to work. Let me know when you want that tour. Happy to do it. I gave her a wave as I left, slurping the rest of my drink and heading back to the house, set to get my room ready for work. I'd been off my game in a serious way since I'd heard from my father 3 months ago. It was coming out in everything I put my hands to. My work and my relationship with my mother were both strained. I couldn't afford to mess up either one. Ruth Marshall was everything I had in the world, and without music, I may as well not exist. As soon as I stepped into the house, my phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out to glance at the display, but I already knew it would be her. Like always, exactly when my mind drifted to her, there she was on my phone. We had a crazy connection that way. "Hey, Ma," I greeted her, pressing the phone to my ear as I made my way through the house. I strolled through the kitchen and grabbed a bottle of water from the stash Gage had left in the refrigerator. "So you're alive," she responded dryly. Truth be told, it was her regular tone. She only perked up for company. "Good to hear your voice, son." "Thanks, Ma. We made it yesterday, then had to get unpacked and everything before Gage flew back out this morning. Just now getting back to the house. What's going on up there?" I listened to my mother give me a rundown of the boring things happening in Astoria. I'd offered to buy her a brownstone, something in Westchester or even out in the country upstate, but all she wanted was a nice place in the city she'd lived in for most of her life. She loved the upscale condo I bought her, updated interior, stainless steel appliances, and the rooftop terrace. She and her girlfriends, the biddies they called themselves, liked to sit up there, drink, and play cards with a view of Queens in every direction. Every once in a while, she talked me into showing up so the biddies could fawn over me. "So you're really going to hide out on some island all summer then? Leave your poor destitute mother back in New York with no one to take care of her?" I was laughing before she'd finished her sentence. I knew how much money I deposited into her account every month. She was nowhere near destitute, and she'd made friends with every resident in her building. I couldn't even stop by to take her to dinner nowadays. She was always rushing off to one thing or another. "Stop, Ma. Don't make me feel guilty. You know I need this." "Yeah," she heaved a deep, long sigh. I knew the feeling. "Yes, you sure do. Over the years, there were a lot of times I wished I could disappear. Have you heard from him?" "I saw him a few days ago before I left town. I won't give him my number so he doesn't call, but he found out where Tunage is, so he'd been dropping by every few weeks." I leaned my shoulder against the entryway to my temporary studio, watching the waves through the enormous windows. I don't have anything to say to him, you know? Neither do I. "Has he been in touch with you?" I pushed off of the wall and listened hard. If that man was bothering my mother, I would be on the first thing smoking back to New York to let him know what was up. He'd been gone for a long time, far too long to try to mend broken fences. No, I haven't seen him since the last time I took you to visit him, and you said you didn't want to go anymore. He stopped calling a bit after that, and then I moved and changed my number. Okay, good. Let me know if you see him or hear from him. You hear me, Ma? Don't worry, I will let you know. How's everything down in... Where are you? Black Diamond. You're welcome to come and check it out. Stay a few days if you want. I'm right on the beach. Oh, you know I'm not really a beach person. It sounds nice, though. Maybe later in... She paused at an electronic beep, then continued. Hey, Nita is calling me. She's supposed to come over and play bid whist. You take care of yourself, son. I will, Ma. Love you, and say hey to Aunt Neat for me. I slid the phone back into my pocket and headed to my studio, turned on some music, and got to work. That is the first 4 chapters of Beach Thing. It just gets cuter from there. I was going to read chapter 5, but I think I'll just leave it there. And just let you discover Wade and Amina yourselves. It's called Beach Thing by D.L. White. It's $1.99 on Kindle. You can also get this at your library. It's also on Scribd and Nook and Kobo in ebook. In paperback, it's at Amazon and bookshop.org. If you want to support your local bookstore, they have it. It's also an audiobook at Audible, and part of the Audible Escape subscription. I think you pay like $6.99 a month, and you listen to every audiobook they have in their collection. Like you can listen to you have like 10 at a time in your library. So after you listen to it, you just return it like a library. So that's me. Any questions before I head out? I think that is it. Thanks so much for having me. I love that you guys let people read their own work. Yeah, it's a super quick read. It's the audiobook's like 4 hours. So it's very short. Like I said, it took me 8 weeks to write this. So it would normally take me over a year to write like a full length novel. A lot of things come to me first, and then I have to let them sit for a while, and eventually the story starts to come to me. But this kind of just sat down in my head, and I wrote it. It's super short because I didn't let myself drag it out into something longer. So I've been trying to write another Black Diamond book for a while. The story just hasn't formulated itself in my mind, but I do want to see Wade and Amina again. And Amina ends up hiring someone to help her in her smoothie shop, and she's sort of tangentially related to the heroine that I want to star in the next Black Diamond book, which I think is called the Pearl on Black Diamond Bay, which is like one of those luxury hotels where you can rent a room or you can like live there or whatever. It just hasn't put itself together in my head yet, so I do eventually want to write more in this series just because they're fun, but you know, my phone is trying to talk to me. Just a moment. Okay, nobody's talking to you. Yeah, the guy next door is great too. Black Diamond is it's of course completely fictional, but it's a man-made island off of Texas. Like think Galveston, but like Galveston Island, but I don't think Galveston is attached to Texas. I don't know, I can't remember. I think there's a bridge actually that you cross over from Galveston, from like the Houston area into onto Galveston Island. But like I love beaches and I love the Gulf Coast, so I love like St. Pete, Destin, St. Simon's Island, Tybee Island. I love all these little beachside towns that are, it's just like so cute and quaint, and I follow like Tybee Beach online, and all the houses they have for rent just give me ideas, and all the little souvenir shops and all the little, spots and places. Like islands have like beaches and schools and, like there's just whole little area of commerce. Like people actually live on Tybee. That's crazy. People live on St. Simon's, which is like my dream. My goal is to retire and live like near the beach, like within walking distance. So until then, I just have to keep writing about the beach. So I do have other books planned for this year. I don't have them written yet. I started writing one. It's just still kind of writing itself in my head. I have a book that's supposed to be out in the fall called Hey Lover. It's going to be set near Detroit, like Michigan-ish, because I wanted to be able to write like snow and cold, and it just doesn't, you just don't get that in Atlanta. It's not cold enough. So, yeah, no, not Caribbean, just, it's still like, US, but just sort of just off the coast of the US. It's probably the furthest away I could get them to where it would make sense for them to fly back and forth and all of that. So Amina kind of goes through something with her parents and they present her, with a plan that where it would make sense for her to go back and forth, and she kind of doesn't want to do that. So there's a little bit of story in here that I'm excited for people to discover. So hopefully I have whet your appetite for Wade and Amina. And I had a couple friends read this book and they asked me if my mom had read it. And I was like, no, because my mom will not read my books. She wants to know why I keep sending these dirty books to her house. So just a warning that it's quite steamy. As short as it is, it's quite steamy. So steamy for me. I'm not nasty like Alexandra House, but steamy for me. So if there's no other questions, I will give you all your evening back. I think that's it. I don't know how to end this. Thanks you guys for having me and for tuning in. I certainly appreciate it. I love the opportunity to read my own books. So hope you guys grab it.